Guys, so I just filmed a video as my review of Dirty Harry. It'll be up here in just a little bit. I've got the day off today. Thursday's usually one of my days off. Cheers. I already talked about this drink in that video, but in essence, it's coffee out of my Vineyard mug. Vineyard is the community church that I go to here in my town of Kentucky. So, guys, this is a live video, of course. So, I usually am gonna start using these for like vlogs and such like that. And what I wanted to talk about today is John Carl Buechler. If you guys haven't heard, I think it was this Tuesday. John Carl Buechler, the director of Friday the 13th Part 7, and the original Troll, as well as a special makeup effects artist on such 80s horror classics as Halloween 4, Troll again, Friday the 13th Part 7, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. 1988 was a big year for this guy, okay? Ghoulies 2, movies like this, The Dungeon Master, which I haven't seen any of. I've seen a little bit of Ghoulies. But anyway, John Carl Buechler passed away fairly recently, and I wanted to talk just a little bit about his work and talk just a little bit about sort of how it made me feel. I wasn't a huge fan of Friday the 13th Part 7, nor was I of Troll, but I've rewatched them recently, not really, I haven't really rewatched them entirely, but I've sort of gone back and reevaluated them a little bit, and not just for his death or anything like that. I think that's a stupid way to do things. The way that I'm sort of looking at it is, John Carl Buechler, I was sort of just going back and looking at stuff that he'd done. This was even before his death, and sort of reevaluating some of the stuff. And I was like, you know what, this is really good. I had heard earlier about his bout with cancer, and wanted to give a little bit of support. I mean, obviously, I don't know anyone. I don't know him. I never knew him. I never met him at a convention. Never met anybody even really that he knows, I don't think, except maybe Kane Hodder when I met Kane Hodder. I do have an autographed DVD of Friday 7, autographed by Kane Hodder. And so obviously I'm at least a little bit of a fan of Part 7, and I am sort of a bigger fan of it now. That I've sort of reevaluated it. And actually, Troll is a fairly interesting little movie. It does have really good special effects, and it's a real cheeseball cornball of a movie, but it's fun to watch. But like I said, obviously I never knew Buechler or any of his family, but do just want to offer my prayers to his family. Hopefully everything will go by well as far as them sort of mourning him. I know this is a tough time for anybody who's ever gone through mourning. It's a tough thing to get through. And there's really no point to this video except just to say that for whatever reason, I mean, we're losing these giants in the field of what I guess we would consider modern horror. That sort of period that started around the mid-70s and went up to probably around 1996 when Scream came out and everything got postmodern. Really sort of starting, I guess, with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and ending probably, I would say, maybe right around Halloween 6. Just because of that sort of bookends it perfectly for me, because in '96 all this postmodern stuff came in with Scream, and I'm not saying that that's a negative thing. Actually, I'm a big fan of Scream, as many of you people know. But anyway, sort of these masters of modernist horror are passing away. I mean, it happened with Wes Craven. That was a big shock and a big hit to me. A big hit to most horror fans, because he never talked about his brain cancer. Um, Toby Hooper passed away a couple years ago as well. Another very sad loss for us. George Romero passed away a couple years ago as well. So the people who started this whole movement are all passing away. We've got John Carpenter. We've got Dario Argento. Of course, Lucio Fulci died way back in the day, in the late 90s. So of course we don't have him anymore. And then Buechler, who's sort of a minor figure in this, but also in some ways is a very much of a major figure because of his involvement in the big franchises. I mean, he worked in 3 of the big franchises. He worked in Friday the 13th. He worked in A Nightmare on Elm Street. He worked in Halloween. He worked in all 3 of these, and the makeup effects in those movies are great. I mean, the look and the effects on Jason in Friday the 13th Part 7 are the best they've ever been. It's the best, and he sort of coordinated some of those special effects, had creative control over that, and of course he directed the movie. And there's plenty of awesome scenes in Part 7, as far as just great effects and great kills and great scenes. And he really, I think, tries to get the best he can out of some of these not-so-great actors. He even kind of had a foray into the postmodern world when he did effects on Hatchet. I think he did the special effects for the original Hatchet, and some of those special effects are really, really good. A lot of them are just fantastic. They're kind of the special effects that you would expect from a Friday the 13th movie, but put in a modern setting. And I'm not saying that Hatchet's a great movie, but the special effects are definitely great. So, you've got that. You've got Friday the 13th Part 7. You've got Halloween 4. There's some really good kills in Halloween 4. Not really very effects heavy, but the stuff that's there is good. I mean, the thumb in the forehead thing, that's about as crazy as it gets in all of Halloween, or at least up to that point. That's one of the craziest things, and I mean, that looks really good. It's scary. And then, of course, A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, which is maybe one of the most effects-heavy Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and Freddy's still got a great look in there. He looks fantastic. The effects near the end, where all these souls are trying to come up out of his body, that's really creepy stuff, and really, really well done stuff. All of those special effects are just fantastic. So Buechler will definitely be missed in the horror community for his contributions to 3 of the big franchises and to a few sort of smaller things too. I like I said, I like Troll. It's a silly movie, and it's one that I definitely will show to people in the future. I mean, people always talk about Troll 2, but the original Troll is, I mean, people sort of forget about it, and it's actually not a bad movie. It's fun. It's worth a watch or two. And the Blu-ray, by the way, has great special features. And there's good interviews with Buechler on that Blu-ray. I always thought Buechler came across as really, really classy, and really good in a lot of these special features that he was in. Anytime that I could get an interview with him on a disc or a commentary with him on a disc, I looked forward to it because I think he's a really smart, talented man who really knows how to work an interview. He does really well there. Cheers, by the way. Coffee. But, yeah, really, really good stuff. A great special effects artist that will be missed. Sad to hear of him going, but we all have our times. And it's sad to hear that we're losing a lot of these masters of horror because, I mean, they did so much for the genre and for cinema in general. I mean, a lot of the special effects that we have nowadays are due to some of the effects that people like John Carl Buechler and Tom Savini did back in those days. We still have Tom Savini, and he comes across really good in interviews as well. But I have heard that he's kind of to meet, Anyway, I always heard good things about Buechler, and I don't know what the point of this video is, but I just wanted to go live for a little bit, do a little bit of a vlog on it, a little bit of an appreciation, let's say, because he really did do very good work. I mean, as a special effects man and as a director, he directed a couple movies that I think are really good and did special effects for a lot of movies that have really, really good special effects. So, rest in peace, John Carl Buechler. If you're a fan of Buechler, please sound off in the comments and tell me about some of your interactions with his work. I've just always really enjoyed his special effects, and as I said, I really enjoy Troll. I mean, it's a silly movie, but it's a fun movie. It's got heart, and it's got really good special effects and such like that. And of course, almost all of us are fans of Friday the 13th Part 7, just because of, if nothing else, just because of how cool Jason looks in there. And that's not all, that is not all Kane Hodder. Hodder brings the makeup and the clothes and the special effects. He brings it to life, but there had to be somebody to make him that way. And I think all of that goes to Buechler. I mean, of course, the special effects team, they did a lot of the work, but Buechler was the guy with the ideas. And I love that about him. He made some really, really good effects in his day. And there'll be effects, I think, that are going to be remembered forever. I mean, I know I'm rambling at this point, but you guys know, in Friday the 13th, Part 7, the MPAA cut out a crap ton of stuff. And there's more, I think, of a movement of people who want to see those effects restored into the movie, like, than anything. Like, I think that's a bigger fan movement at this point than even the release of Halloween 6, the producer's cut, was, because of how cool the special effects were, even in those little, like, snippets of just rough film, those little bits of film. Those effects were so good in there. We all want to see those reinstated back into the movie. And I mean, I guess the tape just doesn't exist. But frankly, I mean, if you even did the same thing that they did with My Bloody Valentine when they restored all those special effects to it, I mean, with the rough cuts and just really bad condition film, it's okay because we still get to see it in context. And at least to me, my my suspension of disbelief is good enough so that just because the film stock changes in quality doesn't mean anything. In fact, I think it adds something. It adds sort of an atmosphere of, oh my gosh, they spliced this back in because they tried to take it out, but they spliced it back in because that's what we wanted. And that's what Buechler would have wanted. I mean, he shot those special effects sequences. Of course he wants them in the movie, but the MPAA, I mean, what are you going to do? They really came down hard on Friday the 13th, starting at part 5 and just kept going until Jason Goes to Hell, because I think the thing is, they thought that it was going to be the end. So at first, they kind of cut a little bit out of the first movie. And then they really butchered 2 and 3. Because they're like, oh, 2 and 3, they're just going to keep going and keep going. The first one, it was just that by itself. But once they did sequels, oh my gosh, they're going to keep going. We can't keep doing this. And then they said, okay, final chapter. And then the MPAA was like, okay, well, this is the last one. We'll let them get away with it so that it's the last one. And then final chapter was such a big hit, probably in large part because of the special effects. And then they're like, okay, well, let's keep going. And they're like, no, A New Beginning, we gotta cut this crap out. I thought you were gonna stop. That's the only way we let you get away with it. So they cut all the stuff out of A New Beginning, even though New Beginning is far more violent than Final Chapter. It's not as bloody, so they're cutting out a lot of blood and gore, but the violence is still there. So let's do that, and then part 6, oh my gosh, even more violent, and so they're going to cut some stuff out of that. And then part 7, they're like, the new blood, another beginning of things, and so they're starting off again, so they got to cut that down. And then part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, oh, these things are never going to end, we got to keep cutting them. And then you get to Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. It's supposed to be the last one. And they're like, okay, we'll let them get away with a little bit of stuff here, because it's going to be the last one. Oh crap, it's not the last one. Jason X, Friday the 13th, not Friday the 13th, but Freddy vs. Jason, and then the Friday the 13th remake. So they're cutting a lot of stuff continually, and the MPAA has just been terrible to Friday the 13th movies. And what I don't understand is that they take out a lot of the violence, but they're allowing a lot of the sex and nudity to stay in there. But I'm getting sort of far afield from John Carl Buechler, so I should stop sort of ranting and going on, and probably just end this video because it's been going on for way too long. But rock on. If you like, subscribe. Talk to you later, guys. Rest in peace, John Carl Buechler. A toast to you and yours. Bye-bye.